while back, we had a moment where a bill came due well before another check would arrive. And unfortunately, it was one we couldn't quite put off until the money actually arrived. So I didn't panic, well, a little bit, but not fully. Instead, I opened my phone and navigated to an app and simply typed, "We are $200 short on rent this month." Within moments, the money was on my Venmo account. I paid rent and then let my husband know it was taken care of. Those systems, in fact, have often created the crisis or are making things worse. We see examples of mutual aid in every single social movement, whether it's people raising money for workers on strike, setting up a ride-sharing program during the Montgomery bus boycott, putting drinking water in the desert for migrants crossing the border, training each other in emergency medicine because ambulance response times in poor neighborhoods is too slow, raising money to pay for abortions for those who can't afford them, or coordinating letter writing to prisoners. These are mutual aid projects. They directly meet people's survival needs and are based on a shared understanding that the conditions in which we are made to live are unjust. And mutual aid networks are popping up again. I've been a part of them for a while due to various circles that I travel in, support circles for LGBTQIA beloveds who need to get out of state, part of a network to help people needing transportation to find medical care in another location, and part of a circle of dear friends who quietly send each other money when we need it. But now, I think everyone else is realizing what these circles have all known. We need each other to survive. We are waking up over this last year and realizing that we cannot rely on the structures we once relied on before. Federal workers went without pay during the longest government shutdown that we have ever seen, and they're not vacations because their bills don't take vacations. Many were working without getting paid, and they had no idea when or if they would be paid and if it included back pay. Rent, mortgage, electric, etc., these things don't stop. Nearly 42 million Americans were scrambling this month to figure out how they would feed their families because SNAP benefits, also known as food stamps, were cut due to the government shutdown. Unless you think these are benefits for people that just need to get a job, please know that the majority of those on SNAP benefits do work. When I worked at a very well-known grocery store here in the South, the majority of my coworkers used these benefits. Again from Spade, today many of us live in the most atomized societies in human history, which makes our lives less secure and undermines our ability to organize together, to change unjust conditions on a large scale. We are put in competition with one another for survival, and we are forced to rely on hostile systems like healthcare systems designed around profit, not keeping people healthy, or food and transportation systems that pollute the earth and poison people for the things we need. More and more people report that they have no one they can confide in when they are in trouble. This means many of us do not get help with mental health, drug use, family violence, or abuse until the police or courts are involved, which tends to escalate rather than resolve harm. In this context of social isolation and forced dependency on hostile systems, mutual aid, where we choose to help each other out, share things, and put time and resources into caring for the most vulnerable is a radical act. Mutual aid is a radical act. So what exactly is mutual aid? First of all, it's more than just giving friends giving each other money or canned goods or a ride. Mutual aid works to meet survival needs while also building understanding around why people do not have what they need. And this part's important. I don't know, based on the demographics of this congregation, if any of you have gone looking for a job recently, but I encourage you to check in on the job board postings. Jobs that require a college degree pay $16 an hour. and that's a good job. That is not easy to live on. Last year, there was an article in the Orlando Sentinel that stated that for people to afford to live, not even comfortably, just to be able to survive, an income of $100,000 a year minimum was needed for Orlando, where I live. And again, most jobs are only offering $16 an hour. And let me do that math for you. $16 an hour at 40 hours a week, that's just over $33,000 a year. It's not counting having taxes and benefits, which may or may not actually be worth anything, taken out of the check. And we wonder why 42 million people are on SNAP. One of the most famous mutual aid programs in our history was the Black Panther Party. They had free breakfast program, free ambulance program, free medical clinics, ride offerings for elderly people doing errands, and a school for children. They welcomed people in by creating spaces where their needs could be met, because it's hard to fight for liberation when you're starving. History paints them differently, of course, but it's important to note that the Department of Agriculture's free breakfast program for children started shortly after the Black Panther Party was demonized and attacked. But let's be clear, the free breakfast program of the Department of Agriculture was not based in mutual aid. It was based in a charity mindset. Mutual aid builds solidarity by providing for needs that keep us from working for liberation and justice, as opposed to a charity model that determines who is worthy of help for one single issue. Mutual aid requires us to look at the intersectionality of issues that affect us all. Again, from Spade, solidarity and an ever-expanding commitment to justice emerge from contact with the complex realities of injustice. This is exactly how movements are built, as people become connected to each other and as one urgent issue unspools into a broader vision of social transformation. We cannot tackle the problem of food insecurity without looking at the federal minimum wage and the rising housing costs and the food deserts and the rising health costs, etc. It is all connected. Another element of mutual aid is that it is participatory. Again, from Spade, mutual aid projects help people develop skills for collaboration, participation, and decision-making. For example, people engaged in a project to help one another through housing court proceedings will learn the details of how the system harms people and how to fight it, but they will also learn about meeting facilitation, working across differences, retaining volunteers, addressing conflict, giving and receiving feedback, following through, and coordinating schedules and transportation. They may also learn that it's not just lawyers who can do this kind of work, and that many people, including themselves, have something to offer. And this departs from expertise-based social services that tell us we need to have a social worker or a licensed therapist or a lawyer or some person with an advanced degree to get things done. Mutual aid networks realize that we all have something to offer, and we all work together to get things done. Again, mutual aid is not charity. There is nothing you have to do to earn or to prove to receive help in a mutual aid network. It breaks the traditional charity model that asks if you're worthy to receive help. The Big Door Brigade, a group helping others create mutual aid networks, says this about the difference. Charity also frames people in need as being morally lesser than rich people, as if poverty were the fault of the poor, rather than the fault of systems of racism, heteropatriarchy, ableism, land theft, and labor exploitation that make some people rich and keep other people poor. Charity looks like generosity from rich people, but actually upholds the systems that make most people poor for the benefit of the few. And I can attest to this. Remember the story from the beginning. I did look into how the housing assistance groups might help us, and it would have taken a ton of paperwork and too much time to prove that we were worthy of this. In some cases, you had to have an eviction notice in hand before they could help you. We were kind of trying to avoid that. Mutual aid upsets this model by saying that the crises people are in are due to the systemic issues in our society, not because they're good or bad. Mutual aid says, I trust you, that you know your situation, and this is what I can offer to help. So how do you get involved? The website Public Health Degrees has this to offer about connecting with mutual aid networks. Be aware of how you show up in a space. As someone who might be new to mutual aid, it's important to consider how you fit into your community. Acknowledge your privilege when necessary. Add your voice only when needed, and listen to the needs of the people seeking support. Do your research. Connect with organizers already doing the work in your community. Find out what networks and services are present, and see how you can contribute to existing efforts instead of attempting to start something new right away, which we are often very prone to do as a certain non-melanated color. Follow mutual aid groups on social media. Mutual aid organizers often boost requests from other groups, as well as requests from individuals in the community. This not only keeps you informed about what your local mutual aid group is working on, but can also alert you to other opportunities to contribute. And consider what you have to offer. Donating money and providing material resources is just one way to contribute to mutual aid. You may also be able to offer your time as a volunteer. Share your skills, your wisdom with others. Serve as a translator if you're multilingual, and find other hands-on opportunities. And again, from the same site, how you can contribute to mutual aid networks once you find them. Donate money, obviously. This can include donating funds for specific individuals, as well as organizations that can use that money to purchase the needed items for their community. Provide resources. Some mutual aid efforts include calls for material item donations, much like we heard today during the announcements. Food, cold weather supplies, anything, gifts for children so they can experience the magic of the holidays. Offer your time. Serving as a volunteer for an organization to collect and distribute goods can be a hands-on approach for those who have the means to do, and I know this congregation has done that for a very long time. Leverage your skills. There's a lot of wisdom in this room. A variety of skills can be helpful to mutual aid efforts. Examples include donating time to designing graphics for social media, writing a press release, or offering expertise to educate community members on an important health topic. And if all of that just seems too much, that's okay, because there's a lot of us who could use some mutual aid. So begin creating your pods, kind of like we did during the pandemic. Find people nearby that you can connect with, that you can check on, that you can ask how they're doing. Find how you can help one another if there is no one else to help, because the reality is that we might need to prepare for that. We are all in this together, and we need one another to survive. May we remember that mutual aid is about justice, and justice is what love looks like in public. Amen. May it be so. May we be the ones to make it so. Our closing hymn today is hymn number 134, Our World is One World. Please rise and bow your spirit as you are willing and able. We will sing all 4 verses.